since I've posted a video. I've had some stuff going on this end and trying to regroup and all that kind of stuff. And hopefully I'll be having some more videos coming out here in the future on a much more regular basis. And today I am trying out in lieu of an actual wireless type mic, I'm trying out my wireless earbuds to see how they work as far as acting as like a microphone, to see if it helps how it sounds. But today, what I'm chosen to talk about is Tom Scholz and the group Boston. And you might ask, why that? That seems kind of random. And also, too, like to mention, I'm in the middle of having a root canal and crown eventually put on. So if you notice if I'm lisping a little bit more than usual, I apologize. I'm trying not to. So just bear with me on that. But anyway, back to Tom Scholz and Boston. Their first album was the first record I ever bought, ever. I was like 7. And I remember the day I was with my dad and a friend of his, and I think we were probably at the mall. And the record had come out, and oh my gosh, I loved it so much. And I said, my dad went somewhere, I was with a lady. I said, can we go look at the records and stuff? And I found the record, but it was like $6, and I only had like $3. But my dad wasn't there. He had walked off to go do something else for a little bit. So I begged and pleaded with her, could you please give me $3, and I'd have my dad pay her back. Well, long story short, she ended up giving me the $3 so I could go ahead and get the record. And I remember my dad, like I said, I'm only like 7. And my dad just kind of freaking out because I'm like asking somebody to give me money so I could, help me buy this record. But yeah, it was the first record I ever bought in my life when I was 7. And I didn't know until years later certain very specific things involving Tom Scholz specifically, and just the band and how it all got started. And it just, it's just incredibly interesting. It's one of those just origin stories that I don't know how many people may or may not know about it at this point. Like I said, I didn't know about it until maybe 5 years ago, what was involved with them getting started. But Tom Scholz, he was born in March of 1947. He now lives, I think, in the Boston area. He's a musician, obviously, a songwriter, a multi-instrumentalist, and also an engineer, which I didn't know until not that long ago. He had a master's in engineering from MIT, and he was a product design engineer at Polaroid when he started working on music outside of his house and within his house. He designed and built his own recording studio in his basement. He didn't have a whole lot of cash, so he built his own 8-track recorder and built a crude mixer that he used in his basement. He also created equipment that he sold eventually under the company name SRD, Research and Development. And he created a number of things because there would be things that he'd want to be able to do, noises, sounds that he'd want to be able to make, things with the guitar and stuff like that, that just, you could not make on your own. You had to, things that now, that would be available to musicians now that weren't then, So he, as an engineer, as luck would have it, being an engineer, he was able to create things to make these sounds that he was wanting to make, or to make actual pieces of equipment that would do specific things for him as a musician. For instance, like being able to make the mixer and the 4-track recorder, for instance, that kind of stuff. He also created something that he called the Rockman, which, of course, all of us, anyone over a certain age is going to know like what a Discman or a Walkman was 30 years ago, 40 years ago. We had, where you could listen to audio tapes or CDs by using a Walkman or a Discman, and he had headphones that you plugged into it and listened to it that way. Well, his Rockman was the same concept, except it was an amp for your guitar. So you could basically, you could plug the guitar into this Rockman, and it was about, looks to, I'll have a picture up here somewhere. Looks very similar in size to like a Discman or a Walkman. And you could hook it up and use it as an amp that you could listen to you playing your guitar on headphones, which I think is completely awesome. And then he also, another example of something that he created was a power soak attenuator, which I'm going to read the definition off because as far as the technical stuff, as far as how this stuff works, and I'm not a musician either, so I don't. There probably will be other people out here that understands how it works better than I do. The power soak attenuator reduces the power to the speaker. The attenuator reduces the volume without altering the overdriven quality of the tone. The power soaker absorbs a portion of the power and dissipates it as heat. Okay. So, and also, he had personal lines of guitar effects. Like I said, he would want to make certain sounds, do certain things that weren't physically possible to do on your own, and so he was able to create the sounds electronically with his equipment. And he was also able to create an effect that had produced the unique Boston guitar sound. The boxes were arranged in cabinets and played through an analog stereo, an analog stereo signal path. And he holds several patents as a result of the work that he did creating these products. And by the way, if you or anyone you know owns one of the original products that he created back then, you've got yourself a total collector's item at this point. The first album was recorded in Scholz's basement recording studio, and he, over the period of 6 years when he was working at Polaroid, he was making these demos, and he, would make demos and then nothing would come of it. And so finally he gets to what was going to be his last demo. If nothing came of it, that was going to be it. He was going to be done because, he's spending money and he doesn't have a lot of extra money to spend on stuff. And, it's costing him money. He's not getting any returns on his money at this point. So, this was, if nothing happened from this last demo, he was going to, he was giving up on making the demos. Well, so the first album this demo that resulted from the ended up becoming the first album, was recorded mostly in his basement, mostly using devices he designed and invented. He also, with the exception of the singing, the lead vocals, and the drums, he pretty much played every other instrument on the album that he recorded in his basement. And he, let's see. So when he created the last demo, Epic finally got a hold of it, and they were very interested. So a couple of people from Epic show up, and he's to his house, and they see his basement studio, and they're like, okay, this isn't going to work. We can't have you recording anything down here that we're going to release on a record. We're going to have to re-record it at one of our studio in California or New York or something like that. And he was like, no, it gets recorded here. Because apparently Tom Scholz was a complete and total perfectionist. And if I'm going to also in the link, in the put a link in the description, there's a gentleman on YouTube that I watch a lot of his videos that has a very good, he has a series that he does, What Makes a Song Great, Rick Beato, and where he breaks down these, hit songs from it's all sorts of songs, all different sorts of bands and stuff. And his video really, I don't, because I'm not really a musician. I played the violin for a few years in high school. There's a lot of things I don't hear, I don't notice, I don't realize, and he's able to break down everything. He's got, or like the or you can just hear like the drums in the song, or you can hear just the vocal track in the song, or you can hear just the bass track in the song, and hear the specific things that are going on with that I would have had a hard time picking up without hearing it by itself, and it's just that individual track. And it's really interesting to watch and listen to, and I really learned more about the song by watching that video. So like I said, I'm going to put that down in the comment, or in the description of the video, because it's just, it makes it even that much cooler now that the song, as much as I liked it, it made me like it even more listening to his explanation of it. But the hearing all the stuff that he was able to do in his basement studio, and how it sounded from his basement studio, and so these guys are like, no, we want to re-record it, and he's like, no. He says, because like I said, he's a perfectionist. He has got this down to a gnat's behind how he wants it to sound. So at that point, Epic was going to walk out and leave, and then the guy stops. He's like, all right, I'll tell you what. You get everything recorded here. Bring it to the studio, and we'll mix it there, okay? And in his mind, Tom Scholz is thinking, fantastic. He's ready to say, okay, let's do it, But he hesitated a couple of seconds, and that couple of seconds was enough for the Epic guy to say, and we'll split the producer royalty on it as well. So that if he hadn't, he was ready to say, okay, fine, let's do it. But he waited a few extra seconds and got that little extra something because of it. And so basically, that album was recorded in his basement, and most of it, like I said, the keyboards, the guitar, and the bass was played by him. Brad Delp, who's the lead singer, did the vocals. And nobody at Epic, not even Brad Delp, realized that at that time when Tom Scholz and Brad Delp signed their contract, they were the only two people in the band. They were the band at this point. Even Brad Delp, it was like 10 years later before he even knew that they were the only two people in the band at that. He just kind of, you assume. You assume there's, you got all this, these songs and all these different instruments. It's, you got to have people somewhere. He didn't realize it was basically Tom Scholz, which I think is that's absolutely fantastic. So anyway, the Epic signs him, and the rest is history. Basically, it ended up being, was it like the top selling debut album of anybody ever at that point for a long time. It was the top selling album, which is crazy. Which, looking back, because I remember it was kind of like one of those records that came out that like everybody knew, everybody listened to, everybody loved. One of the, when you think of like Boston, Bat Out of Hell by Meatloaf, Peter Frampton Comes Alive. It's just one of those epic albums that everybody knows, everybody remembers. One little thing I'm coming back after the fact and adding a couple of things in that I forgot to mention when I did the first run through on the video. One interesting aspect to them when they made their first album, of course they had no idea what was going to happen. Of course you don't, and even to what extent the if they had any success at all, to what extent they would have success with it. You don't always know. You may know it's good. You may know you have certain songs that are probably going to, do all right, but you don't know what eventually happened to them. You don't know it's going to be this like monumentally huge, massive, hit. So when the first were making the album with Epic, Tom Scholz took a leave of absence from his job at Polaroid. Okay. So, which I think is obviously a reasonable thing to do. He's got a good job as an engineer. doesn't want to lose his job, so he takes a leave of absence. He goes back to work after his leave of absence. Well, and then they get picked up as an opening act for a tour. Well, okay, he still doesn't know at this point, that as far as, relinquishing his job, he's still not ready to let his job go, obviously. He's going to keep his day job. So when they're going to do this tour as an opening group, he decides to take another leave of absence. And even, the people at his boss at Polaroid was like, hey, maybe shouldn't you just quit, And he's like, no, I'm not ready to quit yet. I still don't know. I mean, we just don't know to what extent this is going to be continue. He wasn't ready to quit his job yet. It wasn't until like 3 years later. It took about 3 years before he finally said, okay, that's it. I can quit my job now. And he had a conversation with somebody at work that was telling him at the beginning, it's like, well, I heard you're trying to, like, make music and play music and, be like, this rock star guy. And, you sure? That's like a 1 in a million thing. That just, you really think something's going to come out of this, And, well, of course, eventually it did. Things did end up coming out of it. And he says, Tom Scholz, as he finally, after about 3 years, decided, okay, that's it, I can leave Polaroid. He's collected his things at work. He's gotten on the elevator. He's, as the elevator doors are closing, the same guy runs up and, holds the elevator. 1 in a million, huh? Which is, how often do we have that? It's not exactly the truest sense of a Johnny Paycheck moment, I guess. But still, how many of us are able to walk out of a job, especially a job like that, and to what he was able to walk towards when he was walking away from that job. That's just, I mean, what we can all aspire to on whatever level we happen to be at, whatever it is we're doing, I guess. To have that moment to be able to walk away, to walk towards something like that. It's pretty cool. And unfortunately, even with all their success and everything, Brad Delp ended up in 2007 committing suicide. May he rest in peace. There was a couple of different suggested avenues of why he committed suicide. One involved his infidelity by his then fiancée. There was another suggestion that it had to do with some resentment from over the years of working with Tom Scholz, which there was a Boston Globe article where that was their suggestion, that he committed suicide because of things that had gone on between him and Tom Scholz, which Tom Scholz did end up filing a suit against them, a libel suit, which was eventually thrown out of court. But whatever the reasons were behind it happening, I mean, he did say at one point that he had struggled with depression and thoughts of suicide since he was a teenager. So, I mean, it wasn't something that, unfortunately, it wasn't new. But, again, too, I mean, it's when you see these people that are famous and have success and are so good at something, you don't always, you kind of, think, they must be, have such a great life and be so happy, and they seem to have so much going for them and stuff like that. But they're still just people like the rest of us, and they still have problems and issues and things that happen to them and all that. And I think sometimes it can be easy to forget that famous, talented people are still just human like the rest of us. So you never like to see anybody die, much less die because they committed suicide. But it was an unfortunate thing that happened. Just to kind of wrap this up a little bit, just a few little final things about Tom Scholz. He's created something called the DTS Charitable Foundation in 1987, which supports quite a few things like animal protection, animal rescues and sanctuaries, food banks, advocating for children's rights. His foundation has raised millions of dollars, and he actually did get an award from PETA for what's called their Compassionate Action Award in 2013. So, that's pretty cool that he was able to segue his time and effort into doing so much good for people and for animals too. That's really cool. And he's also a vegetarian. Okay, so that's all I have for today. I think there might be another similar sort of video I might do about a similar older musician here pretty soon. And if a couple other things I'm thinking of too. Hopefully, like I said, I'll get more on track and have more of a regular sort of time schedule for getting things posted onto YouTube. But I just wanted to go ahead and get this on there and get it up and say, hey, I'm still here. I haven't forgot about this. I'm still doing this. Just had to resituate some things and regroup, and everything's starting to fall into place now. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed everything today, and I hope everybody has a great week and a great weekend, and hopefully I'll see you in the next week or so. See ya. Bye.